Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and haunts.
Today's story takes us to Michigan for an episode of Paranormal outside Pennsylvania. I'm Sarah.
And I'm David.
Let's get into it. So, this Onsted, Michigan, Paranormal outside Pennsylvania was very, very unexpected. It was at our family reunion with my mom's side of the family. We realized that the place was haunted.
Yeah, well, we were also told by the owners.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, once we got there, then the staff was like, oh yeah, this place, it's super haunted. Yes,
there was a part of the properties that they owned, there was an old bar that was also across the street. Mm-hmm. It's very haunted, and I imagine you're going to talk about that one?
No, not the bar, because specifically today we're talking about the Cowboy Creek Lodge and Stagecoach Stop.
Gotcha.
Which are together on one side of the road, but across from it they do have other buildings that the same people own.
They're making a part of it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But they're renovating.
Yeah. So imagine our surprise at our family reunion to learn that we were staying in a haunted location. So some history, there wasn't a ton on the property, but the Cowboy Creek Inn Stagecoach Stop initially opened as part of a 1960s road trip destination. So that place has been around for over 60 years.
They also said there was like a mine that was there.
Wasn't a mine. It was a roller coaster that was supposed to mimic like mining. It was like the mine roller coaster.
Gotcha.
It's where the like pool and playground are.
Okay. Yeah.
So historically on site, there has been an antique museum, a saloon, a restaurant, and even more as part of this road trip destination. And it's located in Michigan's Irish Hills in Onsted. Currently, there's an old-timey town that you can walk through and look at the storefronts. Some of the buildings actually have doors that open that you can go into. There's a bunch of other places like an amphitheater, a church, etc. There's the lodge itself, which is motel-style rooms, and that's connected to a saloon, which has a kitchen and a bar, and that's where, right now, for guests, they use it as sort of the dining places. And our family rented the whole place.
Yes, we rented it out.
Yeah, and it was great. There was so much to do with a pool, a pavilion, a playground, great for family reunions, and I loved that it was haunted.
Yeah, that was certainly a bonus.
Yeah. So now getting into some of the actual hauntings. And part of these we're going to talk about are told to us by the people that worked there, and part of it is from family members.
Yeah.
Some of my family members knew it was haunted. Some didn't. It depended on when they got there, if they had heard, and also if it was like little kids. Obviously, we didn't want to scare the kids, so we didn't tell the kids.
No, but they were running around like crazy and getting in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah. So from the beginning, the staff was very willing to discuss the hauntings with us, and even more so when I told them about the podcast. They actually offered if we wanted to record in real time while there to be on it, but we didn't have any of our equipment with us. Sadly.
No, because, well, I mean, like, why would we?
Right.
But joke's on us.
Yeah, joke's on us. Family reunion, gonna be haunted. Okay, so let's break down some of the hot spots on the property that they told us about. And again, this is a massive property. There is a train, and the staff said that during a previous investigation, a team had such a negative experience in the train that they now warn people before going in that it's incredibly paranormally active. And according to my research, sometimes they actually do an escape room in the caboose of the train.
They do, and they also make it a part of a haunted house as well.
Crazy. The staff told us that a common occurrence is that of doppelgangers there. They reported that many times they'll call a team member's name because they can see them, only then to have the team member approach them from a different direction, like the person was actually behind them.
Oh, that's creepy. That almost makes me like think quickly, maybe not like a ghost, but perhaps a cryptid.
Oh, that could be true. Just like living in the woods back there.
Yeah, like living nearby.
Could be. And when this happens, where there is like a doppelganger, the doppelganger tends to disappear by the time the people have turned back around to look at it. And I think we did have a few family members that would say, oh, I thought I just saw you over by the pavilion, but they were actually in the kitchen, they're not even close to each other. So we did have that a few times, but we are family. We do, I guess you could mistake some people for each other.
Right. Or just, with the rush of things or with everyone moving around so much, easily mistake that, oh, I thought that person was over, playing, as you call it, bags.
Yeah.
Cornhole for the rest of us.
Yeah, we had like 40 people there, I think. A lot. So they have said that other guests report phantom footsteps, which they have also heard. The staff has also heard. Guests report seeing shadow figures, specifically a shadow man that's roaming the grounds, almost as if they're a caretaker. And I was thinking about that. If it has been there since the 60s, then theoretically someone that was born in the 30s or 40s purchased it.
Right.
So they could have passed by now.
Right. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it could be a previous caretaker.
Yeah, they also told us, or perhaps I'm stealing your thunder, that the more haunted areas of those buildings were the ones that were further down. Mm-hmm. And those are also the ones where they would tell you don't go in there.
Yeah. They did give us some caution. In previous paranormal investigations, because they are really open to this, so they do allow investigations, and typically you can rent a room and then do an investigation overnight, which I think is cool. In previous investigations, they had a lot of success with spirit boxes throughout the property, and there's a wide variety of people that came through in these spirit boxes, and I think that's interesting because it is such a massive property. It's not just one spirit. It's many in different locations, which is why I was so interested in the history of the land. Why this place?
Yeah, why so many spirits in one area? I mean, I get for a theme park, but
yeah,
that would imply that many people died at the theme park, potentially.
Yeah.
Or had such a great time that, like, their spirit returned to the theme park area.
Yeah, I don't know, but the way that they described it, it's not kind spirits.
No, there wasn't really any, like, nice sounding ones.
Yeah. They did caution us about this alcove. So everything looks like a Western town. Everything. Most things look like Western town storefronts. And like David was saying, they said, stay away from, far away from the motel. That's where the more haunted things tend to be. But they also cautioned us there was like a little town square alcove thing. And they said to stay away from there at night because the ghosts of children play there, and the other spirits that were on the property don't like when the kids are interrupted. And I was reflecting on that because honestly, a lot of the kids in our family, and I'm not going to say any of my family members' names because I don't want to, this is our personal family thing. I don't want us to share their business. But one of my cousin's kids, they have 3 kids, and 2 of the kids were playing in the well in that little area all the time. They were so drawn to it. And she kept saying, oh, come inside, come back around to the playground. And the kids were like very drawn to it. And I wonder if now it's because there's the spirits of other kids there.
Maybe.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that they were so drawn to it. And there was an old well there, so I'm sure that that's part of the draw, but yeah.
Well, yeah, that, and you couldn't see to the bottom whatsoever. So, right. They also were dropping some things down there, like small rocks and stuff.
Right. So that was all about what the staff told us. Now we're going to talk about reports from my family. And again, I'm not going to say any names because this was our private family vacation. But some of these things were told to me because they know that I have the podcast, but some of these things were just strange experiences that people had where they would come into the saloon at breakfast and say, oh my gosh, guess what happened last night? So it was all a very authentic experience as we were going through it because we were there for 3 nights. I personally didn't have any concrete happenings, but I will say I felt very uneasy going to sleep at night if you weren't in the room with me.
That's interesting.
Yeah, which is very strange because our room was right by the bonfire, so it's not like anything bad is going to happen to me. It's all my family members sitting essentially outside the door
Right.
at the bonfire. It was a very strange feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel uneasy or anything when I was in the room. That was it's like a safe space for me. It also was a way to get away from people if I needed to recharge a little bit.
Oh, they're definitely going to listen to this episode and definitely going to hear you say that.
I mean,
Shade.
It's not shade. It's just like, a little 15 minutes of downtime.
Well, there's a lot of people. One of the things that freaked me out was one of the little cousins. And gosh, I think they were like 1 or 2. They said they were playing in the playground and they said, "Look, eyes," and pointed straight ahead, but there was nothing there. And he seemed fixated on the spot and continued to stare at it, even though, you give feedback to a child like, "Oh, no, not eyes. There's no eyes," because you want them to know what the word is. So even though people were saying that to him, he was still staring at it, and then his eyes moved as if he was tracking something.
Yes, when small children notice potentially paranormal happenings.
Right, and that's actually what I have in my notes, is that it's often said that children easily connect with the paranormal.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard of this evidence often or accounts of children speaking to ghosts and then having no idea. But that's always a really nice way to like terrify your parent.
Yeah, or your extended family in this case.
Right. You're just like, "Oh, stranger. Stranger where? He's behind you."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that phrase is not something a child would just say. Like, you would never say, "Oh, look, eyes," unless you saw them.
Yeah, that was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, or hear the child talk about it, but it was still, when you
Weird.
told me about it, I was like, "Ha, that's funny."
Yeah.
That probably sent a chill up my spine.
Yeah. So one morning at breakfast, one of my family members complained that the staff was rummaging around in the basement in the middle of the night. And so my mom planned the reunion and rented it, so she was the one kind of talking to the staff. So they were saying like, "Hey, can you tell the staff to stop rummaging around in the basement in the middle of the night? It's excessive, it's waking me up." And you know what my mom said? There is no basement.
I was about to say, I didn't know there was a basement there.
There is no basement. So what this person was hearing was what sounded like people moving boxes beneath the floorboards, which again, I wish I could have found what the land used to be. And now we did have a thing with a possum while we were there.
I was going to say, I do have to rise to the defense of being skeptical here for this one, because there was a broom that a possum made its way through an heating vent?
Yes,
air
it
vent?
was in the heating vents. So that's a possibility, but I think that's in a metal heating vent is such a different sound than the sound of moving boxes around a dirt basement.
Right. So this is where I would think it would sound more of like tapping.
For the possum?
Yeah, with its claws. More so than like moving big boxes.
Yeah, exactly. But they said it sounded like someone was rummaging around, so very freaky to me. One of my aunts reported that it felt like someone was rubbing her back while she was trying to fall asleep during a nap one day. And she thought that, we kept our doors open, so she thought that one of her grandchildren had come in and was rubbing her back and trying to be sweet. So she rolled over to say hi to them, only to find that no one was there.
That's fun.
It's terrifying. She came outside. Do you know which aunt it is?
I know
well,
who
the
that
one
is.
with grandchildren, yeah. Oh, many of my aunts have grandchildren, now that I say that.
Yeah, that was not the giveaway.
But she came out and she was like, "I'm done napping. This is crazy."
I guess maybe I'm the one that should have felt uneasy in the rooms.
Yeah, because they didn't like you. Come to think of it, other than the little boy that saw the eyes, every experience had to do with a female in my family. Like, it was the person complaining about the downstairs area, female. My aunt. The next one is going to be my cousin, that's a female. Then my mom had a paranormal experience. It's all females. That's interesting.
maybe, so for children, although nobody explicitly stated it was children, right? Or am I jumping ahead? Like the sounds of children or anything?
No.
Yeah, that might be, I think you're onto something there.
It's interesting.
I didn't necessarily have any direct interaction.
Yeah. Let's keep going. And then everybody that's listening, give us your thoughts. So while falling asleep one night, my cousin felt a scratch on her head and heard someone say bye. And we stayed up pretty late at night. So when she was going to bed, it was already probably 1 or 2 a.m. And so she shot up to see which one of her kids are teenagers, which one of her kids was getting up to go outside at this point when most of the family was asleep, only to find that everyone else in the room was dead asleep.
Was this the last night?
No.
Okay.
Which is crazy. Like, to not only feel it on your head, a scratch, but to hear someone say bye.
Yeah, that... When you also hear words, although, did it sound like a child? Like, did she state what it sounded like?
She didn't.
Should have followed up that.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So, like I said, my mom also had a paranormal experience here. So, one morning, my stepdad got up early to go golfing. And so when he got back and went into the room, my mom asked him if anyone was awake yet, because we'd kind of gather in that saloon area for breakfast and then decide what we were doing that day, typically playing bags all day. But my mom asked him this question, and he said no, but they both heard a different voice say yes. And
the ghost has an opinion.
Well, I wonder if it's looking for recognition. Like, it's like, is anyone up? And, you know, my stepdad's like, no. And the spirit's like, yeah, I am. Pretty freaky. And both of them heard it, and they were freaked out enough that they wanted to leave their room, even though it was still early yet. I think it was 7:30. But they both decided to get up and go start making breakfast because it freaked them out. So then, the last thing I have for this property. We went on a walk the last night. It was 2 or 3 a.m.
I think we started at like 2.
Yeah. And this is a big property, so it was a long walk. And they are in the process of turning this into a horror attraction. So there is some spooky stuff that you can see. We're going to post TikToks of our time there, etc. But there's like a zombie hunting thing.
I thought it was they have a drive-through haunted experience.
It's going to be turned into a place called Horror Town.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were walking around, so there's already, we know it's haunted. The whole week my family has had paranormal experiences, or what we believe are paranormal experiences, and it's decorated. So
some of it was pretty well done. I do got to give them props.
It looked great. And so we're walking around. I was so scared. And I was walking with my cousin and her daughter. And her daughter's, 6, 5? And this little girl is so brave. And I'm freaking out. I'm just praying the whole time. I was so scared. I'm sure in the videos I took of that walk, you can hear me praying. Because I was like, they told us not to be in the property at this time because it's very paranormally active and they didn't want us to get hurt. And so I was freaking out. And we walked around. You were much braver. You were up with two of my
I was up in the
cousins at the front. And the only thing I will say, we didn't see anything or really have any I didn't see anything or really have any experiences. But as we were walking into the saloon, at the end of it, I said, oh my gosh, what scratched your arm?
No, I don't know.
And we don't know, but you didn't have it when we were walking through like the backwoods or the storefronts. To me, I think it must have happened when you were in that little alcove area where they told us to stay away from there.
Yeah, a few of the cousins I was up front with, we decided to go into the alcove. And perhaps to explain it a bit better, it's a set of like 4 connected buildings and then a slight gap, but with a connection in the back. So almost like a U, if you imagine. Yeah. And then part of it is carved out with a walkway with 2 shops that are not freestanding, but just kind of, I don't know actually if I'm doing a good job now explaining.
Well, it's kind of meant to be like I think it's meant to be like the town square. Like,
Right.
I think that's when it was a Western town. That's where they used to have the fake jewels and stuff. So there is a lot of space, and it's right next to the saloon.
No, I thought it was a little further down.
It was right next to it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I must be misremembering. By the way, we did brave. We did go in that little alcove, and it is quite spooky because it gets dark in that alcove. Like, obviously, it is already dark, but it was especially dark in this alcove.
And I was so terrified that I ran from the storefronts past the alcove and into the saloon and waited for you guys there. And because I could stand in the light and watch you guys. And when you came in, we saw this scratch on you, and you were so calm about it, but it was freaking me out.
Yeah, well, it didn't hurt.
I know, that's the weird part. He didn't feel it happen, but he had this scratch, and we have a picture of it that we'll post on our socials, along with other footage that we have of that late night walk. But it really freaked me out.
Yeah, and then I think most people, or maybe it was the night before, I was one of the last people to go to bed. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was the last night because quite a few of us stayed up. We had a family member that was leaving for the airport very early that day, or that morning. So we stayed up to say goodbye to them. Not the greatest of choices, but we did get to say goodbye. But I was like the last one in the saloon. Everybody else had gone either to bed or maybe like one or two stragglers over by the bonfire. And of course my skepticism side is here with this story, but it did sound like somebody's walking along the boards in front of the stores. Like through the entrance of the saloon. I was standing in the entrance. I was like, oh, okay, well, I know we did just kind of walk along there a little bit, so perhaps my skepticism side is like the boards are creaking, from resetting, from the movement or something, but it sounded like somebody was pretty firmly like walking along.
You have not told me that story till this moment.
Guess I forgot.
It's creepy. There's definitely energy there. You can just tell, especially at night. And it is an old building, so I think there are some things that could potentially be explained away. Like, can we guarantee that the floor creaks are a spirit? No.
Right.
But with what the staff said, with our family's various experiences, even people that didn't know it was haunted, other guest experiences, it's likely definitely a very active paranormal place. Cowboy Creek Lodge and Stagecoach Shop. Would you go back?
Oh, yeah. Especially there, I'm just going to shamelessly plug, there was a barbecue place within walking distance of that there, and it was really good barbecue. So
it was great. We got it both days. And I would love to go back. I would love to go back for a ghost hunt, and I would like to see when the horror town is complete, because it's actually a movie director that bought the property and is going to turn it into this horror town year-round, which sounds right up our alley. And It was a great time. The property just came under new management, I think, this year, and we had such a blast there.
It was a lot of fun. Just because of all the amenities, too.
Yeah, so much to do for a reunion, especially a reunion with a wide age variety. Yeah,
that's actually a really good way to put it. But I also, in particular, for the younger crowd.
Mm-hmm. The pool, the playground.
The town to, like, run around and explore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very cool. And it was cool that it was haunted and they were so open to talking to us as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I would definitely go back. Thank you for tuning in for this week's episode of Paranormal Outside Pennsylvania, and tune in next Thursday to see what places we discuss next. Stay spooky.
Spooky!